This episode of the Totally Rad Show is brought to you by T-Mobile. Coming up, we check out the much-anticipated first-person role-playing game, Deus Ex: Human Revolution.
Talking about Deus Ex: Human Revolution, which is the third game in the Deus Ex franchise. Deus Ex, widely regarded as one of the greatest video games ever made. It's certainly in my top whatever. It's
probably a list of 10, 20.
Something. If there's some sort of numbering system,
I don't know.
It probably would be in there.
Whatever works.
It was released in 2000 by Warren Spector, luminary game designer. And it was famous for giving you lots of choice, allowing the player to tackle obstacles in a variety of ways, and having a very cyberpunk milieu. It's very much Blade Runner inspired, that kind of hyper reality hacking, all kinds of stuff. Human Revolution, the newest game, is a prequel to Deus Ex and the sequel, which was Deus Ex: Invisible War, which I actually never played.
I think I
heard
played
very bad things about it.
Yeah.
I'm amazed. Someone lent it to me saying you had to play this game
Invisible
many
War?
years after it had come out. Never ended up playing.
Yeah, well, it was famous for being the consoleization of a very PC game.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's good things about it, but I stayed away. But this third game, made by a brand new studio, Eidos Montreal, and it is a prequel. You play a different character, Adam Jensen. But it's got a lot of the same themes. You're able to hack into things, you're able to do stealth missions, you're able to shoot. There's lots of different ways to tackle obstacles. A really interesting conversation system that lets you talk your way out of problems. And the game takes place in Detroit and Shanghai, and is this mashup of an adventure game and a role-playing game. It's got a lot of buzz right now. Dan, I know you haven't had a ton of time with the game. What with your huge, successful Portal movie blowing up all over the world, and you having to do appearances.
Yeah, appearances. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Appearances.
But you're right. I've barely scratched the surface, and by that I mean I almost put a scratch on my CD. Yeah. No, I got to play the first bits of the game. And
it's a very long game, about 25-hour game. So it's.
But even if it was a short game, it could have been 5. It could have been a downloadable arcade title. No. But I did play the first bits, and I think it's extremely cool. I did have a couple issues, but first let me say, I love the milieu. I love the setting. I love that with this and Mass Effect, we're really returning to that. Old school sci-fi aesthetic. We had a lot of those.
Very different, though, I would say, than Mass Effect.
It's a little bit different than Mass Effect, but just returning to that straight up cyberpunk. There was a Sierra game, I believe, or a PC game called Rise of the Dragon, or something like that. That was a
San Francisco.
But tattooed cyberpunk, hair, purple hair. Asian-inspired lights and
which I
neon.
think would be very different than Mass Effect. You wouldn't classify
right,
Mass
exactly.
Effect.
But Mass Effect is also an old school sci-fi.
Right.
We had all that in the '80s, and then we've had riffs on that.
Yeah.
And now we're turning back to. So I really like the milieu. I like references I just made. Love the score, the very synthy score that is. It is beautiful. It's one of my favorite scores of the year so far. And what else do I like? I like the thing that I'm sure you're gonna mention. When you have choices to make in conversations, you don't get to choose, do you wanna be a good guy or a bad guy?
Yeah.
You have to decipher, but what's cool is before you make your choice, you see exactly what you're gonna say, not an abbreviated version of it, and you have to kind of infer which one to choose based on the person.
You have to think.
You have to make your decision. The only issue I have with that is that you don't have a lot of intel going into that conversation to make that decision. Like, you don't really know, I don't know what, I just started talking to the guy.
You don't have the rock star face capacity of
the LA Noir, clearly this guy's being
clearly
shifty.
this guy's lying. Look at his eyes.
So,
shifty.
But still very cool. I also loved, until a point, but I loved the Okay, I didn't love the powers, the augmentations. I love the fiction that this is not, you're not androids and robots, you're just augmented people. That's not well-versed fiction,
which is what the entire game is about, really, is that battle between, post-human.
Shouldn't you, yeah.
Exactly.
Augmenting your eyes, whatever. I never loved what I could level up. Nothing was like, I don't have like, as you know, I love grappling hooks or hang glider or whatever. Like I never had awesome things. They were all very small things. But what was cool was when I got to a situation that it was almost basically a puzzle to solve in navigation, I said, okay, well, what do I need to augment to solve this problem? And I augmented wrong at one point. But what was cool is that
it's called rogmenting.
Rogmenting. What was cool is that even though I augmented wrong, there's a way based on the augments that I did. Okay, I couldn't get over a fence.
Right.
So I wanted to augment my jump to get over it. That's a cool power I would like to have for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
I accidentally chose
strength.
Lifting heavy things. Now that's not something I want for the rest of the game as much, but what's cool is there's a solution to this problem with that augmentation.
Yeah. It's puzzles, and every puzzle has at least 3 solutions.
Yeah. Now the problem with that I encountered, that is a common thing in RPGs, it may have been what you experienced when you played the first Mass Effect, is that I had this feeling, I spent over 3 hours trying to get out of a situation. And I felt like it may have been because of the way that I chose to level up. And there's a point where it's like, do I go back to like 5 save? Do I start over again?
You literally can save everywhere. This is like an old
I didn't realize that I could. I thought
where I would save, take 2 steps, save, take 2 steps. That's how I played this game.
But I wasn't sure if when I saved, but I wasn't sure if when I saved, I was just going back to the first part of that, because I saved in a couple spots where.
No, but
so I didn't get clarity
literally
on that.
save anywhere.
Yeah, that
save
would
at any moment, like old PC game.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys ever encountered that in PCs where you have that feeling of I level and now I'm stuck in this thing, and if I only
I did that so many times where I would put practice points in a certain augmentation and then go, you know what, I didn't really like that, and load my save. I would always save before I spent my points. Anyway. Alex,
so
role-playing game, you love them?
Yeah, I'm very Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde about this game.
Uh-oh.
There's a
Are you
lot.
gonna eat my face?
There's a lot to love about this game, and there was a lot that I loved about this game. I loved almost all of the sort of RPG-ness of it, the communications, the conversations, although I missed the motion capture. It was almost like the people who designed the conversation animations were like, well, normal humans will shift their weight. They will also maybe look around, but the way that they chained them all together made every single person you talk to look like they've had way too much coffee. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that smooth mocap that we're used to now.
In the future, everyone drinks way more coffee.
Because it's like, well, I don't know how you feel about this, but if you wanted, you could maybe blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And it's like, what are you doing? You don't have to be moving all the time. So there's a little bit of that funniness in it. Love the look of the game, love the score. Again, it reminded me of that first time hearing the Mass Effect score where it was all synth and you're like, yes, please, in a sci-fi thing with that 70s steampunk or synth stuff. Loved all that. The quest lines, the story was all very interesting. I was really, really into it. And the thing that I actually enjoyed the most is that there are ways to get around having to be in the combat system.
Yeah.
Like in the police station you were talking about, I had full access to the police station totally fine because I had a conversation with this guy, and he was like, "It's all good, nobody will bug you." And I'm like, "Thanks." So all of those.
Did you level up?
The cool thing is that comes back.
No, but here's the thing.
The cool thing is that comes back later, like that. Like things have consequences.
Yes,
it's really cool.
That stuff is all great. I hated with a passion the combat system in this game. It was the most frustrating, not Alex combat system. I don't like the hug a wall and wait while NPCs move around, discover the pattern, try to stealth around. Every time I would knock somebody out, people would just go, "Hey, somebody knocked somebody out," and then I would die. And it was like, this is not fun. There was no moment of fun in the combat system for me. And even worse than that, the augmentation stuff, there were like 2 of 70 options that were combat related. There was no increased damage, there was no specialize in this weapon, there was no, bonuses to your weapon upgrades, increase more output or add more accuracy. The only accuracy thing is you can now move and be accurate. That's never something I'm gonna do because I die every time you walk out. Now, maybe I could have spent all of my praxis stuff leveling up my please don't die with one-shots, hard shell.
Yeah.
But you can't do that because then you won't get anywhere in the game because you need to upgrade these things to solve the puzzles.
That's what I chose.
I don't know.
So for me, I really was disappointed in the combat system, and it really made the game unplayable and unfun in spurts. Now, the good news about this game is, for the most part, there's not tons of combat. There's a lot of combat, but it's not, 80% combat, 20% RPG.
It definitely favors stealth. It rewards stealth and it pushes you in that direction. You can play it as a run and gun shooter. It's
not very well or
fun. It
fun.
certainly favors stealth.
I didn't like it. So the overall thing is, it's a really cool game, but I think it's a really mixed bag because I went from having so much fun to I hate this game. I never want to play it again. I keep dying over and over again, and it's not fun.
Well, I love the game. I really, really do. And I have some gripes with it, that's for sure. But I want to talk about what I like first of all. There is so much to like. It is that old school kind of role-playing game that is the reason I love video games. Exploration is great. It's a very oddly paced game in the sense that I can't think of another game that goes from big, wide open, select what quest you want, hubs, to a very the next major chapter in the game. The entire chapter is a linear one building, almost like the first Fear, go from point A to point B with no first-person shooter level. And then the next level after that, you're back in a big hub, and then it goes back and forth. It's very strange, but it kind of works. And I wish the game felt larger. I wish like Shanghai is the one that feels the biggest because it has multiple up and down levels. But I felt like Detroit feels kind of small and claustrophobic. I wish the game felt more expansive. It reminds me a lot of Fallout 3, and I think if you like Fallout 3, you'll like this game a lot. It rewards exploration just like that game. Anytime you take the time to open a drawer or something, you'll be rewarded. It's great in that way, and I love that in games.
It feels very alive, but there were times when you walk by and you're like, that guy has been peeing in that corner literally the entire time I've been in Detroit.
Yeah, and you leave Detroit and you go to Montreal, and it's like, oh my God, I'm excited to see what Montreal looks like, and it's a building, and then you don't ever leave that building while you're in Montreal, and then you come back to Detroit.
Montreal's actually just a building. It's a very small section
I've
of
never been
Canada.
to Montreal.
In the future, it's been shrunk
down. The conversation system is awesome, as you mentioned. I love how it's not the same as LA Noire, but it gives me scratches that same itch where I'm thinking. There's a lot of thinking. You feel like a detective in this game. There's a wonderful quest where you have to go to this guy's apartment and search for clues, and then later on you're accusing him, and you have to remember what you found.
Yeah.
I love that in games where it actually asks you to think. Yeah. The biggest problem with this game is the boss fights. Boss fights, which should not even be in this game. I
didn't mention them because I added that into when the combat system's bad with normal people, having a giant thing that is trying to kill you is even worse.
Well, I loved the stealthness. I loved that I can play each encounter like I want until I get to the boss fights. And in the boss fights, it's like, no, you really have to fight him. You have to be violent. And it's like, well, I've been playing this. You've been rewarding my choice in how I augment myself, what is in my inventory, all this time to play the game how I want, and then in the boss fight, you force me to kill him, and I have to have the big gun to shoot him in the face. And that happens 3 or 4 times, and they're just not fun.
Yeah.
If those boss fights were in the game, this would be a near perfect experience, other than it does feel a little small.
Yeah.
I really think people should play it. It's great. It's an old school kind of role-playing game.
Definitely worth picking up. I mean, it is an experience that, now we're starting to get into the craziness of those 2 months that everybody decides to put their games out in.
Yeah, this is pretty much the beginning of that.
So it's going to be tough to do it now, otherwise you're just not going to have time.
You should really start playing it.
Yeah, I'm gonna press unpause and play.
All right, everybody, be sure to stick around for This Day in Rad History, but first we want to thank our sponsor, T-Mobile. T-Mobile's great selection of tablets, laptop sticks, and their new mobile hotspots
That thing is rad.
give you the freedom to stay connected with a high-speed internet on the go. Affordable high-speed internet where and when you want without overages. And you can create your own personal hotspot on the go with this bad mamma jamma, the T-Mobile 4G Hotspot mobile hotspot. There's one extra hotspot because of how fast it goes. Get high-speed internet on up to 5 Wi-Fi devices, laptops, tablets, music players, gaming devices, and more using a single mobile broadband connection. 4G capable with theoretical speeds of up to 21 megabits a second.
Wow.
Hotspot. Booyah. With the mobile hotspot from T-Mobile, you can share the largest, you can share the power of America's largest 4G network.
Hotspot.
TM. T-Mobile provides mobile broadband services and allows on-the-go wireless high-speed internet through your choices of portable devices. Amazing. Go get it. I'm gonna be using this sucker hotspot. If you have a breast pocket. Check it out.
Don't miss tomorrow's show for our live PAX panel.
Today is August 30th, and on this day in rad history, in 1948, Louis Black was fucking born. So
I love Louis Black.
A profane comedian. This is why that's funny.
Profane.
I love it because he's the the guy that does this with his fingers.
I'm not into
He's
that.
an angry comic.
I love that guy. I don't know why. He's like, and there were 6 fucking sitting on a bus.
Pretty good.
You could go on tour with that.
Yeah, I could open for Louis Black as Louis Black.
Seriously, that was sent in by @ThatSportsGamer.